Welcome back to the conversation in News Central Television, and it's now time for us to switch gears to situations in Zimbabwe, where activists in Zimbabwe are raising concerns about potential voting confusion and irregularities ahead of the national election. Election boundaries withdrawn for the election have revealed that some wards are located in Antarctica. Yes, you heard that right, Antarctica, causing worries about the accuracy of the election. The election is scheduled for August and is expected to be tense, with the ruling party being accused of suppressing opposition voices. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission released a report in February outlining the wards and constituencies, but many coordinates provided were found to be incorrect, pointing to locations in far-off places like Antarctica in the middle of the Indian Ocean and neighboring countries. With this misalignment, it could impact voters who may be unsure of where the constituency and candidate may be and waste time campaigning to the wrong audience. You have a situation where people are campaigning in the middle of the Indian Ocean or Antarctica.
I'm trying so hard to understand what exactly is going on with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. But wait, in another development this week, we also see a high court that has blocked the release of the electronic voters' roll to the public due to concerns over national security and potential document manipulation. This decision came after an opposition MP filed a court case against the ZEC for refusing to provide him with a copy he requested in October 2022. The MP argued that an electronic copy would be more practical for scrutiny than the printed version, which would be inconvenient and costly. However, the Harare High Court ruled that the voters' roll was a sensitive document and could not be released without addressing ZEC security concerns. The court emphasized that it was the ZEC's responsibility to safeguard the roll from potential manipulation and abuse. And joining us for this conversation, we have Tawanda Mutungama, a political analyst who joins us from Afghanistan, Asia. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you.
All right, so going straight to conversations, what exactly is the significance of the electoral boundaries in Zimbabwe, and how does this issue impact the upcoming national vote?
So the boundaries are very important. And why would I say the boundaries are important? It's because if certain voters are in one area in the last election, which was 5 years ago, and they are then moved to another constituency, it can turn the tide. If, for example, they had voted for the opposition before, and then they are moved to a constituency where they are diluted, then the tide swings. So the boundaries are very important, and the boundaries change the dynamics, and they can eventually change the number of constituencies that go either on the ruling party or on the opposition, or it then determines who gets more constituencies and who gets less constituencies overall. So boundaries matter. Thank you.
Boundaries really matter. Now, Tawanda, can you tell us more about the analysis conducted by Team Pachedu that revealed that some wards were located in Antarctica, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and neighboring countries like Zambia? What has been the response of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to this very shocking and outrageous findings?
Well, this shows that there is difficulty in simple coordinates. Like coordinates should not be something that is difficult to be given, and this then discredits the accuracy of the delimitation report. And it's important to note that the delimitation report comes out of the Constitution, and not only coming out of the Constitution of the country, it also comes out of the Electoral Act of the country, meaning that the elimination report is very important. And then if the credibility is questionable, it means we are not managing to follow our constitution properly, and we are not managing to follow the Electoral Act, and which may bring to question the results of the election. So it is not something that is good when there can be evidence of wrong coordinates. So this is really appalling, and the Electoral Commission needs to do something about that, regardless of the fact that they are immune to any legal action if they are working in good faith. So I hope they are working in good faith in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawanda. I mean, your response shows a lot of confusion going on. I just imagine what the electorates are feeling right now. But aside all of this, we still hear talks about repression from the ruling party. And some have even said that this is also a move by the ruling party to gather more votes for themselves when we talk about the beginning of the delimitation exercise in Zimbabwe. So what are the other concerns that are or that the citizens have in this particular election? Because it's just months away in August.
Well, like one thing that is always said is political parties are there to earn power, and I'm sure once a political party has got power, they would not try to legislate themselves out of power. Neither would they try to host an election to go out of power. And at the same time, the other political parties that are formed are also formed to also earn power. So yes, it is expected that they can be context, but the constitution also expects the state to guarantee that there are elections that are done, and once elections are done, they are fair. They don't have violence, and if there is any contestation, the constitution of the country actually expects the state to ensure that contestation regarding election is resolved timelessly. So these issues, according to our own constitution of the nation, need to be resolved. And where there are questions from the opposition parties, they need to be resolved timelessly, and this is constitutional. Thank you.
Now, Tawanda, how's the ruling ZANU-PF responded to allegations of cracking down on members of the opposition? And what measures are being taken to ensure that the election is conducted in a free, fair, transparent manner? And does the international community also have any role to play in this process?
So, to start with the international community, I think the international community is very important. As an example, for a nation to prosper, a nation like Zimbabwe to prosper, it will need its neighbors, that is SADC. And if we go beyond the neighbors, it needs the international community, for example, removing sanctions. And the sanctions that were put on Zimbabwe, though they are targeted, they will need to be removed so that the nation prospers. And if we look back to, for example, 2002, where these sanctions were put, it was also coming out of disputes in elections and evidence of violence. So it is important that there's a credible election. And if there is a credible election, it is endorsed by our neighbors, that is SADC, and it is also endorsed by other sections or other nations like the European Union, for example. And with this, it will see the country coming out of sanctions. And once the country is out of sanctions, it brings prosperity to the people. Because, for example, some national organizations are sanctioned, and it brings a bit of or some barriers in how the prosperity of the people comes through. So it is in our interest to make credible elections. And if a country has got representatives that are honorable and acceptable and that are credible, we become better as a nation. And also this credibility brings peace, which is in our interest as a nation, to be peaceable, united, and follow our constitution in in having elections in the right time and in a fair, transparent manner. Thank you.
All right, Tawanda, now, given the current political climate in Zimbabwe and what's going on all over in African countries trying to move from manual to electronic, now, do you believe that the court's decision to block the release of the electronic voters' roll will have any implications for the upcoming elections? Because they said they cited security concerns of the reason why they would prefer to be printed rather than electronic. So what exactly do you think will be the implications of it? And if so, what are they?
Okay, so like for example, the voters' roll, it comes out of the Electoral Act, and also the voters' roll comes out of the Constitution. So the Constitution expects and states in Section 7, for example, that there is need for elections, and it also sets out how elections are done. Then the voters' roll is then given in detail in the Electoral Act. So one thing that is important to note about the voters' roll is citizens have got a right to have access to the voters' roll. And the Electoral Act also states that the voters' roll can be electronic or the voters' roll can be physical or a hard copy. But one thing that is important to note is if there is a dispute in the accuracy of the voters' roll, the hard copy or the physical one takes precedence. So with this fact, it's something to note, to say yes, the Electoral Commission can have a right to say no, we will not share the electronic version, and also it can be justified to say this for security reasons, because also it says according to the Electoral Act, it should be able to make the document secure so that it is not tampered with. So with this, probably I would say loophole, and as well this thing, because it's something that can be contested, and if it's contested in a certain way, it may cause like commotion or protest. So in a way, the commission is justified to try to protect the voters' roll.
They're being proactive.
But however, the Electoral Act states that it should provide either electronic or physical copies of the voters' roll. Okay. So also, if it cannot do what is in its own Electoral Act, that is to provide the electronic version, it also brings some questioning to say, is it really accurate? And also, according to the Constitution, the Constitution says that any party that is contesting in an election has got a right to access any material that will help it participate in an election. So also, by not providing an electronic voters' roll, like there is some sort of breach in the constitutional provision to help the parties that would like to have access to the voters' roll.
Now, finally, Tawanda, before we let you go, what are the broader implications of the court's decision for democracy and civic engagement in Zimbabwe? What lessons can other countries learn from this case about the importance of balancing national security concerns with the principles of transparency and accountability in the electoral process?
I think it should prepare the rest of the world, or people who can take a lesson from this, that there should be no chance of questioning what you have electronically versus what is there physically, because it may cause suspicions and as well grounds for dispute at law when the voters' roll cannot be accessed both physically and electronically, because definitely we are in 2023 and everything is going through computers. So if you are going to print a voters' roll, you have typed this information in a database. So it should simply be something that can just be shared. and without any restraint, even though there are some loopholes in the Electoral Act that can give some reasons to say, look, we will not share the electronic version because we need to secure it so that it's not tampered with. But the master copy is always at the ZEC HQ. So who can tamper with it? Maybe no one. And also, maybe it must be known that since the hard copy can be shared, I think if people really want to invest time in making it electronic, I think the Zimbabweans are so smart and computer savvy that they can eventually just put it in Excel documents if they want, and interpret the data on Power BI or somewhere there.
Thank you very much, Tuanda Motogama, for joining us on today's conversation. It's been a pleasure having you. We appreciate your time and insight.
Thank you.
My pleasure as well. Thank you.